and there were speeches stood outside the Parliament House here in Sydney. And so those are the two focuses of the current block of the Royal Commission.
Absolutely unbelievable. And this will, of course, continue. We will keep abreast of everything happening there. Vic Aladev, thank you, as always. So we are very, very deep into this discussion because we were talking about things that you immediately judge people for wearing. And I said besides Crocs because we've already had those Crocs discussion. And yes, I do judge people very, very harshly. And you guys have come up with all sorts of things. But more specifically, a university in the United States has banned bonnets, slippers, and what's the other one called? A do-rag from their lectures. And the idea is that they want to prepare people for the workplace. But there is this incredibly strong move for people to wear all sorts of things in public. I mean, if you go to any airport, you're checking in for a flight, you'd think it was a pajama party half the time. Now, I've never understood that. I've always said to our kids, do you know how many people you're going to meet when you travel? I mean, why dress badly? That's when you want to dress well. You never know who you're going to meet. But either way, let's talk to somebody who actually does know what they are talking about. And that is Kane Pretorius, who is an etiquette consultant at the School of Etiquette. A very good morning. Thank you for joining us. I hope you are well.
Good morning, Howard. It's lovely to be chatting to you again. I am well, thanks.
So this move or this movement towards, I mean, listeners are saying, they were at a coffee shop and somebody wearing a full, toweling gown in front of them, ordering coffee. It's a very, very interesting turn of events. What is going on that has created this environment?
I think what's been going on is people are just falling into this attitude where we should be able to be and express ourselves in whichever way we want, regardless of where we are, and everyone should accept it. People are forgetting that, you have to dress for specific function, for the function of the outfit you're wearing and the place that you're going, and that's the most important part because it's always two-faceted. It's the impression that you're sending off, all right? It signals something about how you feel about yourself and how you showed up, and it also creates impressions on others, and people forget that.
So when did all of this start? Is this a response, do you think, to COVID and working at home, perhaps?
I can't tell you where it started, but it's my experience, especially working at the School of Etiquette with a lot of corporates that we work with. We found after COVID that the formality had substantially dropped when it came to especially workplace environments. And I think that trickled down into society where people thought, we don't have to dress up in order to perform the function that we actually need to do. And then people just lost the sense of it altogether working from home. They lost the formality and we just started getting away with less and less formality, especially now in more casual spaces where there's no necessarily set rules for how we should be dressing. And because of that, people are taking liberties that they shouldn't necessarily be taking. Just because there's no rule doesn't mean you shouldn't be taking those chances, I think.
Yeah.
People need to understand that there's a function for all the outfits that we actually wear. Like, for example, the gown and the slippers. I mean, that's sleeping attire. It's not going out attire for anywhere.
And what message do you think people receive when they see you walking in a shopping mall with slippers and a gown?
So one thing we always need to understand is that it takes 5 seconds to make a first impression. When you see it, people are always going to make assessments about you and judgments about you before you've even opened your mouth. And what goes into that 5 seconds is essentially how you carry yourself. So it's your body language, it's your deportment, and then it's your dress code naturally that comes into it. So if you're wearing sleeping attire, it tells people and signals to people that you literally are in a rush. You couldn't be bothered to get dressed up, and you might bump into somebody who actually knows you, somebody who could create better opportunities for you. And I think you'd end up regretting it, because what most people don't realize is that 5 seconds to make a first impression, but if it's a bad first impression that you make on someone, it takes 8 subsequent meetings to change a person's impression of you.
Wow. Do you think that we I mean, it's interesting. Melissa says, one of our listeners, if I wore a gown to a shop, my grandmother would slap me silly. And well done to her. But do you think that maybe we aren't passing on these unwritten rules properly to our kids, to the next generation? And if that is the case, who's at fault here? Is it grandmothers and parents? Is it schools? What is the, where does it come from in that sense?
You know, Howard, I've been training corporates for over 10 years now. And in that time frame, I can tell you one thing I've learned in training certain people on dress codes. And what I've realized is that Africans and South Africans in particular don't understand dress codes. And you can't blame people for that because they've never been taught so. It's not something that's instructed in schools. A lot of the time when I'm giving the instruction, it's the first time people are actually learning about that. So a lot of the time I say, I don't care how you showed up before these trainings. I care what you do after this, because now you've actually got the information. So a lot of the time it has deteriorated. It's not something that is taught in schools. Most people don't know it. And because people start testing and the limits of what they can actually do in workplaces, in social places, in coffee shops, in universities, for example, because there is no strict dress code, what ends up happening is it becomes the commonplace. People see it and they think it's normal, and then it perpetuates the cycle where everyone starts following suit because they see others doing it. So at some point, I think what that university did by actually instructing on a dress code is a great idea, because they're actually teaching people what they need in order to join, and that way they actually start creating a culture where people follow up to this.
We were chatting about this earlier because we're a radio station and there's a certain dress flexibility, because people are creative, because it's that type of an environment that might be perfectly normal here, but not normal in a more corporate environment. It seems to me that nuance is also not something that people are necessarily picking up on.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please, Howard?
The different environments have different dress codes and expectations, even if they're unwritten. Yes. So a radio station, for example, is going to be a lot more creative. A corporate is going to be a lot more conservative. Surely we need to be sensitive and teach people to be sensitive to an environment in which they are operating.
Correct. And like I said, it sends two messages. Like I always tell people, there's two reasons why you should want to dress up. The first reason is public perception. So people are going to make those assessments about you, whether you like it or not. And the second reason why you'd want to dress up is because it actually changes the way you perform. I mean, there's an interesting psychological condition that was associated when you dress up and actually feel good in the clothing that you're wearing. It's called enclothed cognition. It actually changes the way you perform. So if you're showing up to higher learning institutions, you're showing up to work, you're showing up anywhere for that matter, dressing for the role that you're actually going for, psychologists have actually proven that it actually changes the way you perform. So if you show up to university in your sleepwear attire or anywhere like that, I mean, we're using the university as an example, but if you show up in sleepwear attire, I can promise you it does change the way you perform. You'll be yawning a lot more, you'll be feeling a lot more tired, you won't be taking it seriously, and people won't be taking you seriously. So there's really no winning scenario for it.
I actually have no doubt about that. Even during COVID, if I was working at home, if I didn't get dressed properly in the morning, I would take myself less seriously.
Absolutely. And it also becomes very difficult then to sign out from work, which was the problem that also COVID brought up. Because you're constantly in your sleepwear, so you never actually have this mental checkout where you change your clothing, you change out of the role that you are actually performing. So that's why people suffered a lot more from, burnout and everything else, because they just wouldn't stop working and their mindset wouldn't know when to check out.
So interesting.
It's a very confusing thing.
Yeah, just taking a look at some of your messages. Garth says nose rings should be banned. And Melissa says dress for the role you want, not the role that you have. And then Lynn and Kimberly sending us a photo of somebody with their jeans basically around their knees. That is where we leave it. Kane Pretorius, thank you as always, etiquette consultant at the School of Etiquette, talking to us about dress code and the messages that it conveys.